Hey, and welcome to 20 Minutes Self-Development with me, your host, Tam Dillon. This podcast is all about focused, effective self-development, specifically for healing practitioners, space holders, and intuitives who want to do the work behind the work. In each episode, I'll introduce you to a key concept, reflection, or tool that's designed to strengthen your inner capacity and support the integrity of your practice. In just 20 minutes, we'll go beyond surface-level growth and into the real work that makes you a stronger, steadier, and more embodied practitioner. Let's get into today's episode. Well, hey, and welcome back. It is the month of June, and with that comes both Pride Month and, if you're based in the US, Juneteenth. Very solid reminders of the conversations around identity, dignity, and of course the consistent work of liberation for these different groups. And with those of us being in healing work, it also brings around a time for us to ask a lot of harder questions of ourselves. And this month, I'm going to be diving into why self-development isn't optional for practitioners. It's a solid conversation we need to be having. And today I'm going to start with this. Is your niche a true expression of your calling, or is it a disguise for your biases? Because when we say we only work with women, or we only work with empaths, or like with me shifting my work and being like, cool, I only work with healing practitioners now. When we specify specific niches, what are we really saying? Niching is often presented as good business practice, and it is. Like, I'm coming from a corporate background. I've worked in sales and marketing. I've run my own businesses. I've helped run other people's businesses. And I know, like, niching is an important part of the business. Like, that's the first question, like, who are you serving and how? And when niching is rooted in clarity, it absolutely can be phenomenal business practice. Like, it's logical, it makes sense. But when your niching is rooted in discomfort or fear or bias, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes exclusion disguised as alignment. And I've seen this play out over the years. Practitioners say they only work with women, which might feel empowering at first, but what about men seeking healing? What about non-binary folk? What about the identities we're leaving out? Not out of intention, but out of avoidance. And this gets even more complicated when practitioners step into healing because of their own personal transformation. And in many traditional medicine systems and trauma-informed spaces, there's an understanding. You can only take someone through something if you've moved through it yourself. That's how lived experience becomes your medicine, right? But here's the catch. Just because something healed you doesn't automatically mean you're meant to offer it to others. Sometimes our healing really is just for our own personal liberation, not for professional use or to use as medicine for other people. It's just there for us. It's there for our own medicine. There's a difference between being moved and being called. All right, you've had a really powerful healing experience and you're like, wow, this modality is amazing. I want to go and share it with the world because it made you feel good. Not because, like, oh, this is part of my purpose and my work. It's like, oh, this is amazing. I want to share it with everyone. That's stepping into the realm of just human psychology. All right. So I want to share a quick story with you. Back when I was living in Hanoi, I had a tarot cafe. Beautiful little space, and we would often rent it out to healers and facilitators to host their own workshops and events from the space. And we had one of our good friends come through and run a goddess empowerment workshop, something that was focused on reclaiming divine feminine energy. And a group of women had already signed up, and then a gentleman reached out. He was an expat living in Hanoi at the time. He's from the US. He reached out. He'd seen the event, and he actually reached out in such a really mindful, respectful way. It was pretty much along the lines of not wanting to overstep the space, but he felt really called to, during the workshop. He felt it was something he would really gain some benefit from, but also, he wants to be respectful of the space. But he asked, is it okay if he joins? And chatted to the facilitator, and the facilitator decided to check in with the group that had already signed up to check comfort levels. And most were open to it. But there was one specific attendee who wasn't comfortable with it. She was like, no, this should be a space for women only. And she didn't feel comfortable with having a man in that workshop. As it happens, this woman landed up getting sick and couldn't actually attend the workshop. So the facilitator and I, we chatted again, and we made the call to let this man join. And he did. And he showed up, and he showed up fully. He did the work. And out of everyone in the room, he had the most powerful, honest, raw, and life-changing experience out of that day. What would have happened if we had said no? That exclusion, that assumption that goddess work is for women only, would have cost someone a deeply necessary healing experience. And that day sits with me, and like I share that experience with a couple of the practitioners that I have worked with over the time, where they do talk to me about their niche, and I want to work with these specific people, and I'm like, here's a story you might want to consider while you're considering your niche, because that day reminded me that the work we offer doesn't belong to a gender, a race, or an identity. Healing belongs to the human, right? If your niche is built on who you're equipped to hold space for, that's integrity. That's something else entirely different. And that's the right place to come from. That's good business practice. But if your niche is built around avoiding discomfort, you're not serving, you're sorting, and that has consequences to it. When we say healing is only for a certain kind of person, whether that's conscious or not, we're deciding who gets to heal and who doesn't. That's not ethical. That's not spiritual. And it's certainly not service. As practitioners, our job isn't to replicate ourselves in our clients. It's to hold space that is safe and transformative for them, whoever they are. So let's ask ourselves some questions. Who do you instinctively feel most comfortable working with? Who makes you uncomfortable, and why? Is your niche rooted in experience and skill, or preference and avoidance? Where have you excluded someone in the name of protection? And these aren't easy questions, but they're essential questions to be asking. And I really want to stay with this just a little bit longer, because these aren't just reflective questions for your journal. These are questions that shape the entire foundation of your work. So let's unpack it further. Let's talk about the weight of these questions, because when we ask ourselves who we're comfortable serving and who we're avoiding, it reveals not just personal preference, it reveals unconscious bias. It reveals social conditioning, and it definitely reveals where we still carry unresolved pain and prejudice. I've heard practitioners say things like, I just don't feel safe around men. I just don't really vibe with that type of energy, or I only work better with these types of people. And while those statements might feel valid on the surface, they definitely deserve a far deeper look. Where is that discomfort coming from? Is it trauma that hasn't been worked through yet? Is it cultural programming? Is it an unresolved experience with a father or a partner or a teacher or a colleague? Because if we don't unpack these things, we risk projecting it onto every client, or any client that carries the energy of what we haven't faced. And this applies across the board, discomfort around clients that are people of color, queer clients, Muslim clients, disabled clients, neurodivergent clients. If there's something in you that tenses up and pulls back or subtly judges, that's your work that you must go and do on yourself. You need to go and ask yourself some questions on where is that coming from. That's where your self-development has to continue. This doesn't mean that you have to work with everyone. I mean, I've just niched myself down, right? Because Tam has always been available to the world. When I read tarot, I was like, cool, anyone can, come and sit in front of me and I'll read the cards for you. And when I went into spiritual education, again, I was like, I want to educate the masses. When I came into self-development coaching this year, I was like, let's build toolboxes for everyone. So I get niching and I get where niching comes from, but I also understand needing to ask some very real questions, because I get it. Like, you're not supposed to work with everyone, but it does mean that the choices you make about who you work with should be conscious, ethical, and absolutely rooted in readiness, not avoidance. So you're not like, well, I don't want to work with these people because I don't like them, or, in the past, these people have made me really unhappy, or I've had bad experiences with these people. I'm the person that these people have hated on. Um, you know, Therapists that work with narcissistic abuse, they're not going to work with a narcissist, right? They're going to work with the people suffering from narcissistic abuse. But what if they did go and work with the narcissist and share insights with that narcissist who was perhaps open to shifting and changing themselves? And like, here I'm like going on a big topic, right? But let's look at the bigger perspective of something like that. You're coming from a place of like, hey, you have been the sort of person that has caused suffering, but you're the sort of person who wants to shift and stop causing suffering. Let me share insights with you that I have. Like, who better to educate? And let's flip this. If you only want to work with people who have had the same life experience as you, the same healing journey, the same wounds, they may feel affirming because they're going to be like, oh, you get me. And of course you're going to get them. They're going to get you because like you're mirrors of one another, you're reflections of one another. But it's not the same as being inclusive, because real healing isn't about presence. It's about being able to meet someone in their world without trying to convert it to your own. So when you're going through your healing journey and you're like, these modalities have worked really well for me, and this has been my experience, you're looking through projections and lenses. You're coming through just that perspective of, oh, well, this has been my healing journey, so this has obviously got to be where my healing's got to go. You've got to, as a practitioner, expand your view. You've got to expand your perspective. You've got to look at the world through different lenses. Otherwise, you're going to have biases. You're going to have blocks and challenges, and you're going to be like, oh, these people make me really uncomfortable and I don't get why. And you could be inadvertently like stopping someone from getting some really good hard healing that they may need from you, because you've been on the other side of what that person is trying to get to, but you're like, oh no, you're a man, so I can't do my woman coaching with you. We've got to look at it from the bigger perspective and ask the question, why do we pick the niches that we do? So let's talk about how people enter this work. Let's expand on that topic a little bit, because I've seen this again and again. Someone goes through a powerful healing experience, and for most of us, like, we've been there. I've been there. I'm sure all of us have been there. They've had this huge, incredible spiritual awakening, and suddenly they feel like they've found their purpose. They want to help others, and yes, that is beautiful. But sometimes, and in fact, not sometimes, like often, they bypass the part where they ask, am I actually meant to do this work for others? Or was this healing just meant for me? Right? Because being moved by your own transformation doesn't automatically make you a practitioner. Just because you've gone through a huge shift or change or healing or transformation, had a massive awakening, you may have spoken to the gods in the universe and been like, oh my God, I get everything, it all makes sense. It doesn't make you a practitioner by default. And there are many people who carry some beautifully profound medicine, but they're not meant to be facilitators. They're meant to maybe just be guides or anchors or role models, or maybe they're just meant to do that work for themselves. You don't need to take your huge shifts and transformations and awakenings and be like, oh, I need to go and share this with the world, and I need to make this now a service. I need to go and be of service to everyone else because everyone else needs to experience this incredible thing that I felt. That is just a human nature thing that we want to do. You get a perfume and you're like, oh, this perfume smells amazing, and you know that your friend likes perfumes, and you're like, oh, this perfume makes me feel amazing, so I want to give it to all my friends because I want them to feel as amazing as I feel. And that's just human nature, but human nature does not make you a practitioner. Calling and purpose make you a practitioner. The calling to heal others isn't about wanting everyone to feel what you felt. It's about being willing to sit with someone else's pain when there's no guarantee they'll transform the way that you did. Just because you've had an incredibly earth-shattering experience on an ayahuasca ceremony and you're like, oh, you, my friend, have so much trauma, you need to go and do ayahuasca because it did so much for me. They could go and do ayahuasca and that could be the worst thing for themselves. Just because you've gone through it doesn't mean you have to take everyone else with you. Okay, it's like discernment in this specific space is really, really important. Because if you're coming from humility and you're coming from patience and you're coming from a capacity to keep your own ego out of the process, you'll be able to discern, okay, this is calling and purpose, or this is me just having a really intense, beautiful experience and I want to share it with the world. But, just maybe it is my own thing and I need to keep it as such. So let me ask this. What kind of space are you creating? Is it a mirror of your own comfort zones? Or is it a space where anyone, regardless of their identity, can feel safe, they can feel seen, and they can feel whole? Because let's say you do only work with women, because that's probably the most common one that I see, because I think women dominate the healing industry. In fact, white women dominate the healing industry. So all the white women want to keep working with the white woman. Like, I'm going to be honest about that. I've seen it. Like, I see you all out there. Like, stop that. All right. But what if you as a woman have gone through this huge, profound experience and you have all this incredible knowledge, and a man comes to you and they're like, you know what? I see the beauty in what it is that you've done for yourself. I want you to teach me that. I want you to show me how you did that, because that might do something for me. Because you know what? We have duality. We have yin and yang. We have masculine and feminine within each of us. We carry those energies. So who is it for us to be like, well, you have this between your legs, so I'm not going to work with you, because you don't know how profound your medicine might be for that person with that thing between their legs. Okay. All right. Some serious real talk today. So your branding, your language, your client intake process, these are all invitations. Who are you inviting in? And who might you feel is left out, even if you didn't intend for those people to be left out? Because healing isn't about similarity. It's about safety. It's about capacity. And like I said earlier, it's about the human. It's not about what's on the outside of that human. It's about that human being and what that human being is needing in that moment. And you as a healer, where you have the calling and you're like, nah, sorry, you don't look like my right client, so I can't work with you. Like, you check yourself. All right. Because if we're serious about holding space for others, we have to make sure the space we hold isn't unconsciously closed to people who don't match our reflections. So ask yourself the very hard, real questions that I've asked you today, because we need to ask these questions. We, as healers, need to have these conversations, and we need to check our biases, because we are here being like, hey, we offer the safe healing space. We're offering you healing. Oh, but sorry, you look a certain way, so my work is not for you. So check yourself, check in with where is your niche coming from. Is it from a genuine like yes? Because absolutely there are healers that genuinely like yes, you are supposed to work specifically with this group of people. But for most parts, check in with those cognitive biases, because you may be inadvertently causing more harm than you are good.
Thanks for joining me for this week's episode of 20-Minute Self-Development. If today's reflections were helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode, where we'll explore another tool or principle to support you in doing your own work as a healing practitioner. If you're looking for deeper support, my practitioner mentoring sessions are designed to help you refine your presence, integrate your self-work, and build a practice that's both ethical and sustainable. You can also visit the Tam Dillon Academy to explore all current programs and resources built specifically for space holders like you. Until next time, keep showing up for your own work, and remember, real growth is built on consistency, integrity, and self-responsibility.